Jerusalem Dateline, I'm Chris Mitchell, coming to you from the annual Jerusalem March, with thousands of participants, both in country and from...
Jews from around the world are preparing for their new year, which will be celebrated at sundown. In Jerusalem, people rushed to the market ahead of the...
What if a single event could change the course of history? What if a prophecy, thousands of years old, was suddenly coming true before our very eyes? Jerusalem, a city steeped in history and faith, where the past and present converge. As the echoes of the Feast of Tabernacles fade, a new chapter unfolds, one that could reshape the destiny of the world. A prophecy, whispered for millennia, is now taking shape. The third temple is being built. For believers, this is more than just a construction project. It's a sign, a potential fulfillment of ancient prophecies foretelling the return of the Messiah. Could this be the moment that alters the course of history? Could the third temple be the key to unlocking the final chapter of humanity's story? Join us as we journey through the history, the prophecies, and the profound implications of this monumental event. Discover the secrets hidden within the stones of the third temple and the potential it holds for the future of our world. Israel observed the festival of Sukot, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, a deeply cherished Hebrew tradition. This year's celebration took on added significance with the inclusion of a reenactment of the water libation ceremony, hinting at the eventual construction of the enigmatic Third Temple. The notion of the Third Temple carries profound importance in religious beliefs, particularly within Judaism and certain Christian sects. Rooted in Jewish tradition, the Third Temple is prophesied to be erected in Jerusalem, succeeding the First and Second Temples. It is believed that the construction of this temple will herald the return of the Messiah, ushering in an era of lasting peace, redemption, and spiritual rejuvenation. The Third Temple is envisioned as the focal point where humanity can commune with the divine. The fervent anticipation surrounding the construction of the Third Temple is palpable, especially within Orthodox Jewish communities, symbolizing the culmination of faith and divine promises. The longing for the Messiah's return and the establishment of this temple is a driving force for believers, representing the fulfillment of their spiritual journey and core beliefs. For them, the Third Temple embodies not only a physical structure but also hope and divine intervention. Thus, the recent observance of the festival of Sukot marks a significant step toward their long-standing aspirations. But what significance does the festival of Sukot hold in the context of the Third Temple's construction? Also known as Sukot, or the Festival of Tents and Booths, this ancient festival has deep historical roots. Lasting 7 days in autumn, it serves as a poignant reminder of the Israelites' arduous 40-year journey through the harsh desert. As one of the 3 vital pilgrimage feasts, it requires all Jewish men to gather before the divine presence at a location chosen by the Lord Himself. Yet, this festival goes beyond mere commemoration. It is intricately linked to pivotal events in temple history. In 1 Kings 8.2, King Solomon's dedication of a second temple to the Almighty stands as a moment of profound significance in religious history. Similarly, in the book of Ezra chapter 3, this sacred festival commemorates the restoration of the temple, led by the courageous Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel. To grasp the full magnitude of this event and its implications, we must delve into the depths of history, prophecy, and faith. The pressing question looming over us is whether the construction of the Third Temple signifies that the world's end is closer than previously thought. Could it imply that we are on the brink of witnessing the arrival of the Messiah in our lifetime? As we stand on the threshold of the Third Temple's construction, it is fitting that the festival of Sukot was chosen to mark this monumental occasion, accompanied by the reenactment of the water libation ceremony. But what exactly is the water libation ceremony? Known as Nisuch in Hebrew, it once held profound significance during the Feast of Tabernacles celebrations. While it may not feature prominently in modern rituals, it was a cherished and joyful aspect of the Feast of Tabernacles ceremony during the Second Temple period. This festive occasion was renowned for the water drawing, a practice conducted during the silent hours of the night, culminating in the pouring of water from the Shalom spring for the water libation the following morning. Ascending a ramp to a bronze altar in the revered temple court, the priest poured a jug of water into the basin for 7 consecutive days, evoking a sense of reverence and jubilation as the water cascaded gracefully into the altar. The profound joy experienced during this ritual is encapsulated in the words of the Mishnah. He who has never witnessed the delight of the water-drawing ritual has never truly tasted joy in his life. Now, let's delve further into the importance of the water libation ceremony, as it holds a crucial place in understanding the overall picture. The water utilized in this revered ritual was sourced from the pristine Gihon Spring, situated just east of Jerusalem. This spring holds a profound connection to the anointment of King Solomon, son of David, as recounted in 1 Kings 1:45. Throughout history, King Hezekiah ingeniously diverted these life-giving waters from the spring into the heart of Jerusalem, utilizing an underground conduit known as Hezekiah's Tunnel. This engineering marvel guided the waters to a revered pool, the Pool of Siloam, nestled within the protective walls of ancient Jerusalem. The significance of these waters extends beyond mere ceremony, as they played a pivotal role in search for ordinance sacred purification rituals outlined in number. For numerous faithful individuals, the construction of the Third Temple carries immense prophetic weight. It is envisioned as a symbol heralding the return of God's divine presence to earth, fostering a deeper connection between humanity and the divine. This sacred edifice is believed to serve as a sanctuary where people from all corners of the globe can unite in worship of the Almighty. However, amidst this anticipation, a contrasting narrative emerges. The Book of Thessalonians presents an alternate viewpoint, portraying the emergence of the Antichrist as a precursor to deception and turmoil. According to prophecy, this figure will initially present himself as a peacemaker, only to unveil his true malevolent intentions later. He will demand universal worship within the very confines of the temple erected for the worship of God. This ominous individual will exploit the Third Temple as a platform to exalt himself to the status of a deity, aiming to undermine the authority of Yahweh. How was the water libation ceremony reenacted, and what significance did it hold? Under the guidance of esteemed rabbis, including Rabbi Israel Ariel, founder of the Temple Institute, the ceremony was more than just a historical reenactment. It was a revival of ancient traditions and deep-seated faith. Picture a procession bearing a golden vessel filled with water ascending to the mountain summit, encountering a model altar adorned with willow branches, reminiscent of the ancient temple rituals. With reverence, 2 Kohanim ascend the stone altar, placing silver cups in the southwest corner. One pours water from a silver flask, while the other pours wine, the liquids flowing into specially designed altar holes, a living tribute to centuries of tradition. The ceremony peaks with a priestly blessing, its echoes resonating within the gathered hearts. Yet, the experience extends beyond this moment. Following is the once-in-7 years Shemitah ceremony, a time of spiritual introspection and renewal, intricately woven into the tapestry of faith. The water pouring symbolizes a prayer for rain in the upcoming year, underscoring the people's reliance on God for sustenance in their agricultural heritage. As we witness the symbolic pouring of water in the reenacted libation ceremony, we're reminded of its deeper meaning. Water as life, as sustenance, as a divine blessing. Yet, even as this ancient ritual is revived, a stark contrast unfolds across much of the United States. A historic drought grips the land, parching the earth and highlighting the fragility of our water resources. Could this stark juxtaposition be mere coincidence? Or is it a sign? A warning, perhaps, echoing the prophecies we've been exploring? Amidst the backdrop of severe drought conditions affecting nearly half of the continental United States, the significance of water becomes profoundly evident. This summer, as detailed in the Forerunner magazine, the impact of drought was palpable, subtly shifting the landscape of daily life. In Charlotte, where typically lush lawns demand regular mowing, the scarcity of rainfall brought an unexpected relief from this chore. offering a rare reprieve from the mundane tasks of lawn maintenance. However, the effects of the drought were not always readily visible in the cityscape. The occasional rains managed to sustain a semblance of greenery, albeit with signs of strain evident in the hardened, dusty ground and diminished water levels in lakes, rivers, streams, and ponds. Driving over bridges, one could witness the stark reality of the situation, with water bodies noticeably receded, revealing previously submerged landscapes now exposed and dry. Yet, despite the outward appearance of normalcy, the absence of rainfall underscored the preciousness of water, heightening awareness of its indispensable role in sustaining life and fostering gratitude for its abundance. Indeed, as the skies remained bright and cloudless, and weather reports lauded the pleasant conditions, the true value of water became unmistakably clear, reminding us of its intrinsic significance in our daily lives. And it is this day, the last great day among the holy days, that highlights water. The sheer abundance of living water, not just physical water that you get out of your tap or see in the ponds and streams. This is living water that God promises to all humanity. Let us begin at a typical place in a sermon about the holy days, in Leviticus chapter 23. We will read about the feast and the last great day in verses 33-39. I will be going from there to Numbers and Nehemiah, because I want to show you the only 3 references to the last great day in the entire Old Testament. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days to the Lord. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a sacred assembly, and you shall do no customary work on it. These are the feasts of the Lord which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything on its day, besides the Sabbaths of the Lord, besides your gifts, besides all your vows, and besides all your free will offerings which you give to the Lord. Also, on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep the feast of the Lord for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a Sabbath rest, and on the 8th day a Sabbath rest." Leviticus 23:33-39. So here we have it this day that we're keeping now. The last great day is the 8th day of the Feast of Tabernacles. It is part of the Feast of Tabernacles, yet distinctive and different, because he mentions that we keep the Feast of Tabernacles in verse 34 for 7 days. And then, the 8th day is tacked on, it seems, at the end. It is the last great hurrah of God's feasts for the year. Let's go on to Numbers 29:35-38. If you want to have a memory cue for the context of chapter 29, it is a list of all the offerings that are given for all the feast days throughout the year. In this chapter, the last great day, the 8th day, is set apart somewhat more than in Leviticus 23 from the Feast of Tabernacles. It is given its own separate paragraph. On the 8th day you shall have a sacred assembly. You shall do no customary work. You shall present a burnt offering, an offering made by fire as a sweet aroma to the Lord. 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs in their first year without blemish, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bull, for the ram, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the ordinance. Also 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the regular burnt offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Numbers 29:35-38. So, there were quite a few things that needed to be done on this last great day. If you notice, in comparison to the other days, this was normal for a holy day. Also, day by day, from the first day until the last day, he read from the book of the law of God. And they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day there was a sacred assembly, according to the prescribed manner. Nehemiah 8:18. We see here a reinstitution of the keeping of the holy days, not just the Feast of Tabernacles, but also the last great day, or as Dean Blackwell used to say, the last great 8th day. Or was it the last 8th great day of the feast? I always thought that was just a bit of a mouthful. Why don't we keep it just the last great day? But he threw that eighth in there and got me all messed up. But here we have it. We've just been 3 or 4 minutes in these verses, and this is it. This is pretty much all we have to draw from in the Old Testament directly about the last great day. It seems like it is just simply tacked there, as the last hurrah of feasting and worship before God, before the long, dark winter months before spring. But in the New Testament, we have an understanding given of what the last great day means. So, if you will turn with me to Revelation 20:11-15, we see the fulfillment of the last great day in the great white throne judgment. Now at this point in time, the millennium has already lasted 1,000 years, at the end of which was a great rebellion. Then we see in verses 7-10 that God does not allow this rebellion to be successful. And then he comes and blasts them into smithereens and out of existence, and then he casts the devil and his demons into the lake of fire. And now here we have the great white throne judgment. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works, by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works. Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Revelation 20:11-15. So, the last great day is fulfilled in the white throne judgment. This is the time tacked on, just like the last great day is tacked on to the Feast of Tabernacles. This is a time tacked on to the end of the millennium. I don't want to diminish it by using the term tacked on, because it is a great and separate festival all by itself. And I think that we see in what happens here in the great white throne judgment, that it is a time of great judgment. A period of people living and learning, and growing, and overcoming, and repenting. It is a chance for them to relive life under the new conditions that will allow them to become part of the family of God. There is a negative side to it as well, in that it is a time when those who choose not to accept it get burned up just like the beast and the false prophet are burned up in the lake of fire. They will quickly die and become ashes under the soles of our feet. As the parched earth of America cries out for moisture, we're reminded that the significance of water transcends mere physical needs. It holds a spiritual resonance, echoing through ancient rituals and prophecies alike. The water libation ceremony, a cornerstone of Sukot, isn't just about praying for rain. It speaks of a deeper thirst, a thirst for spiritual renewal and divine blessings. And as we delve into the last great day of Sukot, we find hints of an even greater promise: the outpouring of living water, not just for the land, but for the souls of all humanity. At this pivotal juncture blending historical significance with faith, it's imperative to recognize the enduring relevance of the water libation ceremony, intricately woven into the tapestry of Moses' oral teachings. While no longer a practiced ritual in contemporary times, it remains an integral component of the joyous Sukot festival, symbolizing spiritual connection and jubilation. Once spanning an astonishing 15 hours within the temple, the ceremony transformed Sukot into a global day of worship, attracting pilgrims from far and wide. Notably, the water Udala said, in this sacred ritual originates from the Siloam pool, a significant biblical landmark serving as the initial stop for pilgrims, journeying to Jerusalem for religious observances. Situated within the ancient city walls, this pool held profound symbolic importance, symbolizing purification before presenting sacrificial offerings at the Temple Mount. Drawing water from the Siloam pool during the Feast of Tabernacles symbolized the Israelites' dependence on divine provision for water and agricultural blessings. Transported by priests to the temple, this water was poured onto the altar as a petition for God's favor, particularly for rainfall. Originating from the Gihon Springs and directed through Hezekiah's Tunnel, also known as the Siloam Tunnel, this journey underscored both human ingenuity and devotion. Constructed during the reign of King Hezekiah, the Siloam Pool replaced its predecessor, the vulnerable Upper Pool, serving as a testament to the enduring commitment to faith and safety. So, what role does the Babylonian Talmud play in these ceremonial observances? The ceremony signifies the culmination of the sabbatical year, known as Shemitah, coinciding with the advent of Rosh Hashanah. According to the Babylonian Talmud, Shemitah marks the opportune moment for the Messiah's revelation. This belief is rooted in Amos, chapter 9:11, which prophesies the restoration of David's fallen booth, Sukot, on that day, indicating the Messiah's appearance in the year following Shemitah. The Talmud elaborates on the events preceding the Messiah's coming, fostering anticipation and affirming the fulfillment of prophecy. However, it's essential to recognize that the Babylonian Talmud isn't the Bible itself. Rather, it represents the collective teachings and viewpoints of revered rabbis, akin to the Quran's compilation. Each rabbi contributes their distinct perspective, often presenting unique prophecies believed to precede the Messiah's arrival. Interestingly, while many view the Talmud and its teachings as harbingers of imminent events, significant disparities exist in belief systems. In Judaism, Jesus Christ isn't regarded as the true Messiah, neither the one who has come nor the anticipated returnee. Instead, believers await the arrival of the authentic Messiah, with world events serving as omens of his impending advent. The erection of the Third Temple underscores this profound sense of anticipation. The anticipation surrounding the Third Temple's construction is palpable, fueling fervent hopes of a messianic era. Yet, as we delve deeper into the Talmud's prophecies and the diverse interpretations within Judaism, we're reminded that the significance of this temple may extend far beyond its physical structure. Jesus himself, in the New Testament, offers a different perspective on the importance of temples, a perspective that challenges our assumptions and invites us to consider the true essence of worship and faith. As Jesus was leaving the temple that day, one of his disciples said, "Teacher, look at these tremendous buildings. Look at the massive stones in the walls." Jesus replied, "These magnificent buildings will be so completely demolished that not one stone will be left on top of another." Mark 13:1-2. Herod's temple was one of the wonders of the world in its day. In the time of Christ, they had been building it for 46 years, John 2:20. And as Christ was talking, the building was still not completed. The Jewish people were very proud of Herod's temple. It was one of the ways that Herod was trying to win his way into the Jewish people's heart, even though he lived an ungodly life. I have lived in Jerusalem for more than a year and a half of my life, and many times have walked upon the Temple Mount and reflected on the fact that every stone was thrown down just as Christ prophesied. It was destroyed in 70 AD by the Roman general Titus. Josephus, the historian, speaks of more than 1 million Jews who were killed while the Romans set fire to the temple. The gold of the temple melted into the cracks between the bricks, so every stone was separated, looting the gold and throwing the large magnificent stones from the Temple Mount. When Jesus talked to the Samaritan woman in John 4, the big issue to her was whether or not she should worship at the temple in Samaria or the one in Jerusalem. Jesus said, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. The true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth." John 4:21-23. What was the Lord saying? God is not as interested in buildings as us. He is more concerned with the temple of the heart. Paul the Apostle wrote about this when he said, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple, and that God's Spirit lives in you?" 1 Corinthians 6:19. It seems to me like he was writing something that was 101 fundamental Christianity to the church in Corinth, using the words, "don't you know," to remind them. Isn't it easy to get sidetracked into building what can be seen by men, rather than what is seen by God? I noticed that the first temple was called Solomon's temple, the second being Herod's temple. Maybe that is why God allowed the magnificent structure of the temple buildings to be destroyed. The buildings were about what men had built. At the end of my life, I don't want to be disappointed by what I have made with my time, energy, and money. And I don't want you to be disappointed either. Jesus said that we were to not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Matthew 6:2-3. Is it about me? Does it have my name on it? Why am I building it? Is my labor truly glorifying to the Lord, or is it seeking to bring glory to me? Is it magnificent to men, but lacks value to God? The things we build here on earth may be magnificent for a time, but have little lasting value. The things that last are issues of the heart and character. I am convinced that many of you will be significantly rewarded for things that man has not recognized, but God alone has seen. This concept of internal worship connects directly to the story of Jesus' visit to the Second Temple in Jerusalem. There, his actions and pronouncements shed light on the proper purpose of a temple and the dangers of prioritizing the physical over the spiritual. As Jesus approached Jerusalem, overlooking the city from the Mount of Olives, he wept bitterly, lamenting the city's missed opportunity for peace and divine recognition. He foresaw its impending destruction due to its failure to discern the significance of God's visitation. His profound sorrow was evident in his intense sobbing, contrasting sharply with the jubilant praises of the people. The reason behind Jesus' mournful cries lies in Israel's failure to acknowledge the time of God's visitation. Instead of recognizing their need for spiritual healing, they sought an earthly king to lead them in battle. Jesus foresaw the consequences of their rejection of divine salvation, envisioning the Roman siege, the temple's destruction, and the city's desolation. In AD 66, the Jews revolted against Roman control. 3 years later, Titus, son of the Roman Emperor Vespasian, was sent to crush the rebellion. Rome laid siege to Jerusalem, and in AD 70, they entered the weakened city and set fire to it. History records that Jesus' prophecy was fulfilled to the letter. The Romans set up a barricade around the city and starved the city into submission. When they entered the city after killing most of the occupants, over 600,000 Jews were slaughtered. They set fire to the temple and much of the city before pulling down every stone of the temple area to get at the gold that had melted from the temple structure. In speaking of Jerusalem, he foretold, "They will not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation." The Romans made an example of Jerusalem as a witness to other cities of what could happen to those that rebelled against Rome. Then he entered the temple area and began driving out those who were selling. "It is written," he said to them, "My house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." Every day he was teaching at the temple, but the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the leaders among the people were trying to kill him. Yet they could not find any way to do it, because all the people hung on his words. Luke 19:45-48. It was confrontation time. One person, Jesus, stood against the high priest who was overseeing a corrupt system. The court of the Gentiles in the temple had been taken over by money changers and merchants hired by Annas, who had been deposed as high priest by the Romans. Caiaphas, his son-in-law, was set up as high priest. When birds or animals were brought to the temple to be sacrificed, they would often be refused for no apparent reason other than the fact that Annas wanted more money. A worshiper buying an animal inside the temple precincts would be charged 15 times more than one bought outside the temple. But if a person bought it outside the temple, although it was much cheaper, the priest who inspected the animals would often refuse it, thus forcing the worshiper to buy another animal inside the temple. Annas presided over everything going on and was responsible for this system of purchase and trade, which exploited the poor. The temple tax also had to be paid in Israelite shekels. Visitors from different nations would be shortchanged and robbed, but there was nothing they could do against it. Such were the corrupt practices that went on in the temple courts. Instead of a place where the Gentiles could pray and seek God, they smelled animal dung and the clink of coins. It would have saddened any true worshiper who understood how people were treated in the name of God. Mark records how Jesus responded to such behavior in the house of God. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple area and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. Mark 11:15-16. The Lord's passion for his Father's name and glory burst forth in controlled anger. Later, the Apostle John wrote, "His disciples remembered that it is written, 'Zeal for your house will consume me.'" John 2:17. His courage and zeal captured the hearts of the regular people, and they adored him for what he did that day. Christ was outraged at the religious leaders' greed. Just picture the scene: the money rolling everywhere, and people scrambling for all they could grab as the money-changing tables were overturned. Doves flew in all directions, getting their freedom instead of being used for dishonest profit. The picture was one of chaos inside the court of the Gentiles. God had spoken that his house would be a house of prayer for all nations, Isaiah 56:7. But instead, they were selling animals and birds. Can you imagine the leading Jews being challenged by someone whom they believed was an illegitimate son from Nazareth? Their thoughts may have turned towards violence as they considered the one who challenged their practices. Where did he get the authority to do and say such things? They may have thought, how can he assume to tell us we cannot sell our goods in the temple precincts? Surely Jesus must have known that this behavior would not earn him any friends or favors in the temple courts. His brave actions exemplified his passion and zeal for his Father's house. As followers of Christ, what things are we zealous to protect and defend? Christ demonstrated love and concern for the poor, the helpless, and those isolated from society. Do we, as Christ's representatives, give the same consideration to these people? Sadly, we are often influenced more by the culture around us than the Christ within us. We do not always see the injustice done or the opportunities we should meet right in front of our eyes. We can become desensitized to sin when we live amid it. When God arrives in a situation, however, he brings to light those things which are done in secret. Some of those things about which we have read may have become accepted and tolerated for so long, but there will come a day when the Lord you seek will suddenly come to his temple, the messenger of the covenant you desire. See, he is coming, says the Lord of hosts, Malachi 3:1. The Lord is a defender of the vulnerable. When the day of the Lord comes, he will come with justice. Because Christ is perfect, he could judge the sin in the temple. He not only judged, but also went on to demonstrate in the most powerful way imaginable what true love is. He sacrificed his own life as a ransom for ours. God's justice was equally mirrored by his mercy and his great love for us. The reason some people are not receptive to the message is often because the mercy of God is not present in a demonstrative way. People instinctively know when something is authentic and genuine. When Jesus spoke the truth, he did so in love, and people responded. He could say awkward things and reach people's hearts because he loved them. Knowing that our righteousness is nothing, and that we all need his grace. We need to have right heart motives if we are to stand for the justice of God. As we navigate these complex shades of prophecy, history, and faith, it becomes evident that these actions, including the construction of the Third Temple, the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles, and the reenactment of the water libation ceremony, are integral to the fulfillment of biblical prophecies. And so, as the Third Temple takes shape on the horizon of history, and as believers and seekers of truth gather to ponder its significance, let us reflect on the age-old question: do you believe in what the Jews are doing? Or do you hold other opinions regarding the preparations for the Third Temple? Your voice, your perspective, is an essential part of this multifaceted narrative. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below, to engage in dialogue, and to illustrate this ever-evolving tapestry of faith. In conclusion, the construction of the Third Temple and the revival of the water libation ceremony hold deep significance in history and faith. These events are at the heart of tangled beliefs. Thank you for joining us in exploring this complex narrative. See you next time.